All right, good morning, guys. We've got a little bit of an awkward setup here, but I think we can make do. I'll show off a few things here. Just to let you know, there is no Cavern of Chaos show this morning because I ran off and I got married over the last week, and we just got back yesterday. Today is July 12th. And in the midst of being in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Sevierville, Tennessee, um, we actually had time to hit some flea markets before we came back, and I got some really great deals here. But I tell you what, between all the comic book conventions getting canceled this year that I usually go to, like Heroes Con, Dublin, Virginia, I can go on, and a lot of the flea markets locally not being all they could, it was really cool to go down there and find a bunch of these books. If you want to see anything about the wedding that I had, we had an elopement. If you're on my Facebook, you can find pictures and a video that was made if you're interested in that. Other than that, we'll start talking about these comics. Now, I hit a comic book shop, two flea markets, and a few things. We masked up. We got our sanitary hand gel, so we went out there but yeah, we've got a few things. And basically, after I added up all the money that I spent on these, it comes to about 65 cents a comic. And I did get 3 or 4 really good keys, and there's a few things that do that. Hey, John Jones, thanks, man. Thanks. All right. So with the setup here, one of the things that I'm really into, these aren't in perfect order, are these Doctor Who books. Like I said, these ended up becoming like 65 cents a piece after I did the math. Hopefully they're going to be showing up here. But these are from the 80s where they brought Doctor Who up. I'm pretty sure a lot of them were mostly reprints and stuff. Didn't get with new covers. They were brought over here from England back in the day. And it's the Tom Baker stuff, which is amazing. So basically, I'm just filling up a lot of holes. We had the Star Beast here. Like I said, great Dave Gibbons covers from the 80s. There'll be a few more here and there. So I was really great to find these, but not only just find them, but they're in fresh bags. And some of these are like brand new, like they just came off the spinner rack. These are fun stories. They're quirky. And if you're a fan of Doctor Who and Tom Baker, that's the way to go. And like I said, they'll be scattered throughout here. Now, this is cop issue of Howard the Duck. I actually ended up passing up a few books. I found a vendor who was making me some really good deals on Friday, and we were coming back on Saturday. And he said he may be there Saturday morning. So we stopped by there Saturday morning. He didn't show up, but luckily I got this. I was going to get a few more Howard the Ducks. But this is an interesting one. I was just it's wild that it popped up because I've been picking up Howard the Ducks over the years. Probably like the first 7 or 8 were in my house, and all that stuff when I was growing up as a kid. Howard the Duck was kind of popular. I think if you were a teen in the 70s, he was kind of like a counterculture thing. Steve Gerber writing him. But what's interesting about this issue, this is issue 16. I just found out about this probably about a week or two ago, probably on Twitter or something. I don't know. Maybe somebody did an article. Who knows? But I ran across it because this issue is called Deadline of Doom. And from what I understand, Steve Gerber was having some huge problems with deadlines writing a comic book. So this is mostly typed up, and Frank Bruner, John Buscema, a couple of artists came in and they all did these these splash pages, and the rest is type. But in the middle of it, Steve Gerber presents this story of like a subplot or something of an ostrich and a Las Vegas showgirl. Now this is like in 1977, 22 years later in the 90s at Vertigo. There was a book called Nevada, and it came from this book, that little idea he threw in there. So it was so funny to learn about this. I remember Nevada coming out, and I just shook my head and didn't spend the money to get it, despite it being Steve Gerber. And then I find out it has a Howard the Duck connection, which was hilarious. I thought that was really cool. This was always grab these Marvel Super Specials. When I was growing up, I had the Return of the Jedi, the Indiana Jones, the Dune, and they would take these and they would break them down to 2 and 3 and 4 issue comics. Break up the original here and sell them on the newsstand. And this is the comics adaptation of Sheena with Tanya Roberts from the 80s. where she's riding a zebra and running around in her little leather bikini and stuff in the jungle and stuff, right? But the real reason I got this is that Gray Morrow did the art on it, who's a great artist and stuff, right? And so I thought that was kind of funny, that was kind of cool to find. No idea why I got this one. I'm thinking I make my stacks as I buy comics, and then I break down the stacks and get what I really want, then try to get a deal. Apparently this was a leftover in there. It's pretty beat up, but it is House of Mystery, closed. No One Dies Today. It's still a very cool cover. I'm trying to look and see if I recognize the artist, and I really don't. Usually you might, get a Neil Adams or a Bernie Wrightson cover with these old House of Mysteries and stuff, right? But this is number 208. I think this has been used on a collection before, something I've definitely seen the image before. Now here's the one of the great little finds, and it's I think this is worth about $30 now, right? But 65 cents. When this was brand new, it was 75 cents. It's a newsstand edition, but it's the first full appearance of Apocalypse. And I think this might be around the time that Louise Simonson came on here to kind of straighten out the X Factor books, because Bob Layton and them they just weren't getting it. It didn't have the feel of the X-Men, the mutant world corner of the Marvel Universe, if you will, right? And you got to understand, there were not a lot of the X-Men, the mutant universe at this time in the 80s was still very contained. So you had X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, a few miniseries here and there, kind of spotlighting some people, New Mutants, and then you had X Factor come out, and Louise Simonson, and then I think on issue 10, Walt Simonson came on there and really straightened out the book. But there was a cliffhanger in issue 5 of a shadowy figure screaming with his arms out and stuff. And we get to find out that it's Apocalypse, who we all should know now. So this was really great to find. I got mine off the stand or off of, X Factor later on. I actually finally did a subscription service in the 80s because I was living way out in the boonies. For Silver Surfer and another book and whatever, but I didn't get the books I wanted. I did get X Factor and some other books, but really cool to find, and I got to bag them. And another Doctor Who. I'm not going to bore you with that, but love my Doctor Who books. The other one I found, I think this is about a $20 book now. I don't know, it may have depreciated, but anyway, it's the first appearance of Archangel, formerly Angel, who lost his wings during the Morlock Massacre, and they amputated them 9 months before this book came out in issue 15 of X Factor. My whole thing is I still have my issues of X Factor that I bought off the stand or got through subscription or whatever back in the day. Pretty sure I got them off the stand, but this was a Fall in the Mutants tie-in. This is a beautiful copy, a newsstand edition, and it was really cool to find it. But what I want to point out is that they're saying that this is the first appearance of Archangel, but they had issue 23, and I picked up issue 23, and because usually you have a cameo, which may be the last panel of a book with Marvel. Marvel kills me with that stuff, trying to decide what's a first appearance and what's a cameo. To me, if they're in the book, it's a first appearance. If it's in the sequential series, this is a beautiful copy. The only thing wrong is that it's got like a little bump down here. Other than that, this thing's beautiful. But like I said, a cameo is usually maybe the last panel of a book, or maybe they're in the background somewhere. Not a big deal. But this one, before we know that it's formerly the Angel, he gets like a big 2 to 3 page spread in here, introducing the fourth horseman to the other 3 horsemen. That's what Apocalypse is doing. Of course, he has his helmet that he rarely wore after that. That was just probably for the readers here. So I kind of consider this the first appearance, because that's like 2 to 3 pages there of him just raising it, and he shows up again in it. So to me, X Factor 23 is something to keep your eye on if they ever change the rules there, right? And of course, I'm sharing the bag here with another Doctor Who book, which are great reads. Now, if you're a kid like me, which I kind of sometimes feel like I am with this stuff, I'm getting really close to completing this Kamiko Jonny Quest run, which was a lot of fun. This is from the 80s. We got 25, 26, and 27. These are fun comics. If you're a Jonny Quest fan, they're fantastic. William Messner Lowe's. He might have wrote the whole series. I'm not sure, but they used to have some superstar artists on this to get it going. Dave Stevens, Steve Rude, Bill Sienkiewicz, Doug Wadley, the creator of Jonny Quest. These are just really fun books, and I love when they reference they have references to the cartoon. I have them on DVD. I'm trying to pull the trigger and get it on Blu-ray because it's unedited. They censored a lot of stuff on the DVD if you get it. But this cover here, I'm like, what? I can't believe they pulled this. I'm not quite sure what was going on. It's the 80s and stuff, but I'm sure there's a story behind this. But Jonny Quest, can Johnny survive this? It's a blank cover. I know they got words on it, but what? 27. This book ran into the early 30s. I mean, it was probably around 6 more months or something. But yeah, they got by with a blank cover. I find that very interesting. We got out there 4 people on a Sunday morning, and it's a beautiful day outside, so that doesn't surprise me in the middle of July. Congratulations to you both. Thanks, John Jones. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, man. Got you. Pretty sure. I wonder if you're the one that messaged me. I had quite a few messages I haven't been able to keep up with. So just to kind of show some other things here before I get off here. I've still got a lot to show. That's why I did a live stream. But I love these magazines. If I can, I used to love Muppet Magazine. Love it. If I could have those back, that would be a happy day. They're quite pricey and stuff. I've read those over and over and over. But I also like these magazines like this, the Electric Company, Jelly Bean Art. Back then, you would really, I'm sure these were on like magazine racks or something, but when it came to stuff like this, they were the highlight books if you went to the doctor or the dentist office. So I found with Jelly Bean Art on it, some guy did a Spider-Man and jelly beans that would just get the kids. This is Sesame Street for grown-ups and stuff. But in the back of it, I think they reprint some Spidey Super Stories. That was a comic book between Marvel and Electric Company in the 70s. So it's kind of cool to see that. They don't have any credits on there, but it's pretty cool. But this thing is untouched. It usually has games in it and stuff, and nobody's done anything with it. Now, this is where we come in and we buy back our childhood, okay? I have a lot of Marvel Treasury editions, but this is the one. Hey, Mind the Comics is here. Fantastic. You got here just in time. We have a Marvel Treasury edition here. Now, this one, I don't want to mess with the camera too much, but good morning. Hey, thanks, Dr. Silver Age. What's up, brother? Got people coming in. Yeah, Dr. Silver Age had a birthday not too long ago. Happy birthday, man. While I was out getting married. And he says some nice words on Facebook. I appreciate that, man. All right, but getting back here, this Marvel Treasury edition, this was the one. I had a Hulk Marvel Treasury edition. There was a Stepdads, don't get me wrong, which was great because I think he had Dr. Doom on the cover, and it seems like Roy Thomas and Herb Krempe did a story of pretty much they pulled in Moby Dick and made it sci-fi with the Hulk on a slave. He was a slave on a spaceship that was literally a ship where he helped pull the oars and stuff. Anyway, and he fought Dr. Doom in it. I read that one over and over. There was a Conan one, which I have. I don't have the Hulk one anymore, but I've replaced the Conan one. And then there was this one. And this is the one that I read over and over and over as a kid, sitting on a bed with this huge, if you're a kid, this book is huge, going over and over this. And I actually ended up just in time buying the Fantastic Four 120 through 124, 121 through 125, something like that. It's a 4-issue story. And I think this was the first time Galactus was brought back by Stan Lee without Jack Kirby from the early 70s. And this was fantastic. I posted some images on my Instagram of this book, some of my favorite panels that I remember from this. But this was just fantastic. Here's the back cover. But this is Gabriel, the Airwalker, who you didn't realize was a herald of Galactus. You did not know Galactus was coming. And the books, the original 4 books of this, I know they're probably closer to 50 years old than 45 now. I think this was like 1971, 1972. They're worth like about $120 a piece. which blows my mind. I just bought them in time. Mine are not mint, but I think I can get about 100 a piece out of them if I ever did sell them. But anyway, but I loved Gabriel Airwalker because Stan Lee went biblical with this. You thought he had his horn. He was talking about the destruction of mankind. And anytime you have the Silver Surfer Galactus, and it used to be with some of his heralds, there was a bit of a overtone of some religious symbolism, maybe, what was going on. But, he even shows him blowing the horn of Gabriel, telling the Fantastic Four what's coming and stuff. Then Galactus pops up. One of my favorite characters since I was a kid. I know he didn't last long, and I know he's got replaced by a robot, and maybe this one was a robot. I don't know. But I'm going to go back and read this, but this was so much fun. Let me find that panel. It was so good. When I was a kid, that was the stuff right there. I never saw anything like it. Just enough to pull you in. Great stuff. Oh. Okay, what do we got here? Dr. Silver Age. Love those Treasury editions. Yep, always a big deal when Galactus showed up. Okay, carrying on here. Let's get a big stack. Now, like I said, for you guys popping in, after I did all the math for finding these, I found most of these. I popped in on a comic book shop on Monday on our way in, got a few books, but then these were from the flea market. After I did all the math, all these books ended up being about 65 cents. And I've already showed some of the keys. I'm going to pop those in there just for the people popping in there. Like I said, they're, less than cover price, 75 cents, 65 cents. First appearance of Archangel, first appearance of Apocalypse. That was really cool to find. Okay, moving on. And if you do the rerun of this, pop in there and see where I talk about this, possibly, in my mind, the first appearance of Archangel, X Factor 23. So I get books for fun. Some of the books I bought with my own money when I was a kid is I always had a fascination with Starman. This Starman, the Starman and All-Star Squadron, and it paid off because in the 90s, if you watch this channel at all, you know that Commandy and the Jack Knight, James Robinson, Tony Harris Starman of the 90s was one of my favorite books, and this was one of the reasons. So, these books, like I said, these books aren't in demand, but these are books that I bought with my own money when I was a kid. And now I got like a few fill-ins here because I don't know if I have them or not. I don't think I do. But Prince gave him the Starman, Aquaman, Plastic Man stories. Plastic Man had a cartoon on Saturday morning, so that just sucked me in. And he had Baby Plaz. He had a baby on that show with his buddies, Baba Booey, and I don't remember the girl's name. But it was a fun cartoon when I was a kid. But I never, this was one of the ones I wanted to get, number 470, with the special concluding the awesome origin of the Prince gave in Starman. He ended up getting a blue costume and carrying a staff and had a fuzzy cape. I was like, okay, they really went with the royalty aspect of it. Didn't have this one as a kid, so I was glad to get it. 3 features again in the trilogy. And I'm not going to lie, this almost looks like a Ditko-ish kind of drawing of Prince gave. I don't know what they're going. Maybe that's what they were going for. And this is the one, to me, it seemed like for the longest time, this was the Peter Frampton album of comic books there for the longest time. This in a Teen Titans number 49, I think, or 51 or something. But anyway, it seems like everybody that had a collection back when I was a kid that I got to see and stuff like that had this book here, Adventure Comics 471, for some reason. This was the one. And I remember this villain having a brick face. That's what was so funny. He had the outline of bricks on his face. That's what kind of stands out. Now, this is something I've gotten completely for nostalgia. Like, I wished I read more of them as a kid. But they have great George Perez covers. And this is around the time George Perez he and Marv Wolfman arrived at DC. And you had Marv Wolfman on the Teen Titans. He was doing some Justice League. Seems like he had a backup feature in a book that's escaping me right now. But George Perez was all over the place. And it just seems to me that George Perez blossomed as an artist at DC. And but anyway, you had these Dial H for Heroes. Now, a couple months ago, I showed another one of these. It's Adventure Comics still. But I showed another one of these, but where I think it was Harlan Ellison had sent in the Silver Ghost or something. But the whole thing was, is as a kid or as a fan or whatever, if you wanted to, you would submit a villain or a hero, and they would put it in the book because he had the dial to turn him into a hero. But these had fantastic George Perez art. Can you imagine sending in your little fantasy superhero and having George Perez draw it, let alone have it show up in a comic? So I got a few of these. They're fun to read. They are what they are. These are the kind of comics you just read for fun. You're not going to get Shakespeare. Good day. Buying comics to your honeymoon, brave man. Oh, my friend. Yeah, I married a good one. I would love to show what she bought at the flea market. She was totally down with it. Actually, I did have a little guilt for finding stuff that I wanted. And on the last day, she finally found a bunch of stuff she wanted, and I felt much better. I went ahead and got this. And Gore Vidal, Catch It on the Rewind. I've already shown a few keys and stuff. Maybe I should have saved them for last and stuff, right? But I said, why not? 65 cents on this one. But I think this is the first appearance of Amethyst, Princess of Gem World. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like she had this miniseries. Then she had a series. Then they changed her around Crisis, brought in the Lords of Order and Chaos and stuff that came on. But the 80s were fun. I should have got this. The whole theme was gems and stones. And the bad guy was Opal, who's in the background there, being Omnibus. And apparently that headdress didn't last very long. But I know this book, this character probably got created around 81, and it took a year or two to get her out, because I remember seeing an advertisement in a comic about a year or two before this saying that she was coming. You taking off? Okay. Somebody said I was brave to buy comics on our honeymoon. I said, you found stuff. Yeah, guilty pleasure. That's exactly what it was there. And I was glad to find this one. It's a gold key comic, but sometimes you just get a little nostalgic and stuff. But this is the extra fun with a 16-page fun catalog. Hopefully it's in there. But this is Dagar the Invincible. Dagar renews an ancient battle between a warrior god and a monstrous demon. The fantasy books, I found quite a few fantasy books, which we'll be seeing here pretty soon. And I'm really having a very nostalgic feel to go back and read some of these stuff. The fantasy books with Edgar Rice Burroughs and the Warlord and all that stuff were floating around the house. The paperbacks were there. I'm a big Elric fan and stuff. And with me not buying that many new comics at all, these are very cool to find. Not a lot to say about this. Just a number 4 of the DC 4-star Spectacular. These were probably reprints of Silver Age stories, but I always grab these giant books when I grab them. I may already have this one, but if I do, it's definitely an upgrade. DC Special. I have another book that has the Three Musketeers and Robin Hood, but DC Special, when you buy these books, you got to make sure, because that's the actual title of the book. And they usually have specials here, but these are always fun. It's always fun. The Viking King, Robin Hood and his Merry Men. And it feels like it's the Robin Hood of the 30s is what it always feels like. That movie, and the name of the actor is escaping me. Oh, we got some people popping in. Dr. Silver Age. Did Amethyst first appear in the insert preview in some book? Not sure. That sticks out in my mind. That's why I was real careful saying I wasn't sure, because that's where you had All-Star Squadron pop up, ARAC pop up, Barons, Conquerors of the Barren Earth and stuff. They used to put inserts in for these guys. There was I want to say maybe there was a Legion of Superheroes 298, I think, that had an insert. I wonder if that was Gem World popping up. But like I said, I'm just shooting off the fly here. But Dr. Silver Age, I think you're right. Because that's how they did it for a couple years. They just put an insert in a book. Maybe that, and then I think All-Star Squadron popped up in Justice League first, and then they came out with like a little. It wasn't called a 0 issue of All-Star Squadron, but I think if you went to a comic book shop, they had taken that insert and made it a free preview. They would stick in your bag. All by memory, I don't know, or things I've read. Tom Bagley, Amethyst sounds like it could have fit nicely as an early 80s Saturday morning cartoon. I heard they may have been trying to, I think Marvel got into the toy business with Crystar. I think that's what it was called. I have all of those. And I always sort of assumed that they were trying to do a toy or cartoon with Amethyst. I don't know. There's a lot of things that just come down from the grapevine, where you just talk comics with people and they heard something somewhere, and I never really looked it up to see. But I just know that I heard about Amethyst at least a year or two before it finally came out. This is when I would get my comics and I read them front to back. That includes ads, advertisements, editorials, everything. I loved them. Hey, Prowler671 is here. Awesome, guys. Definitely catch this on the flip side. I've already shown some key books. Paulo Costa, I'm almost done rewinding from the beginning. Not only time for buying comics, but you also have time to make a video. That's why I'm putting this out. We're putting this up. She's going to go. Everybody's thinking I'm neglecting you, babe. Am I neglecting you? Am I a horrible husband? No. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good so far, but we're not even a week into it. I am doing good. I cut you a watermelon up, right? Yeah. Cool. Oh, thanks for everybody taking up for my wife. I appreciate it. You want to get on camera? No, not a bit. All right. All right, Scott424 popped in here. Amethyst first appearance, DC sampler number 1. I have that. That's again, I was talking about first appearances when I brought out the X Factor 23 and stuff. I don't know if I agree that I would count a first appearance. This is personal. This isn't saying anybody's wrong. I don't know if I would count a first appearance in a DC preview. I know you had the Spawn first appearance with the Malibu Sun that people say that's what it is. The Hellboy first appearance was on a San Diego Comic-Con pamphlet or something. I really don't know. I kind of count a first appearance when it's in a series, an actual series. I wouldn't count a first appearance in Marvel Age. You know what I mean? Personally for me, but there's people that do. So, yeah. All right, now we're getting into the fantasy stuff I got there. Right now, I can go to Ollie's right now and get a beat up copy of the trade that collects the Skull Slayer. You taking off? Okay. All right, be careful. Love you. All right. Skull the Slayer. You need help carrying that? No, they'll wait. Okay. Love you. Bye-bye. So I can go to Ollie's and get this Skull the Slayer. It's Marv Wolfman, and from what I understand, I remember hearing about Skull the Slayer, but never really read it. But I understand it was very odd, and it was sort of like a guy transported to where there were, I don't know, some fantasy world with dragons and stuff. I don't know if it was post-apocalyptic or what. It seems like I saw some beat up streets and old cars. Could be a memory. So I got issue 7 just for the heck of it. Paulo Costa, I bought Skull the Slayer trade paperback a few years ago. Not a good read, but with 4 writers and 8 issues, quality had to be all over the place. There we go. So there's a reason I never really heard about it or wasn't a big demand. Kevin Kelly, are places open there? More or less. People act like it's back to business, but on the people are masking up as they want and need. I don't know. It's not back to normal, but everybody's trying to act like it is. Okay, Paulo Costa, I think they gave Skull the Slayer some Ghost Rider powers back in the 90s. Gorbadal, listen to the Kayfabe and Nasita interview this morning. It was good. I might check that out. I don't count first appearances in preview mags either. It seems like someone trying to generate heat for a non-item. Yeah. Now I love these. This may be in a double in my collection, but it would be an upgrade. But I love the DC books when they had the license for the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. Korak, Son of Tarzan, a Joe Kubert cover. The Tarzan books when Joe Kubert was writing the book and adapting stuff, the adaptations and stuff. But I simply love these books. When I was a kid on PBS, you could catch the old serials from the 30s of Tarzan and stuff. So, and then the Tarzan movies, and one of my favorite movies of all time. And I swear somebody sent it to me, and I passed it on. I paid it forward. But was Tarzan in New York. I think that's an old black and white movie from the early 40s and stuff, man. But yeah, I've got the books. I've read quite a few of them. Now this right here, this is one of those books that hooked me on the comics. If I was already hooked on comics. I'm not even sure when this came out. 67, probably in early 80s. But I have the copy that was probably my uncle's or my stepdad's, beat up, tore up, and I've kept it around because I absolutely love this cover. I'm one of the few people, no disrespect to the man personally, but when it comes to Mike Grail, the man to me is a better cover artist than actual artist. His proportions blow my mind. Like he usually draws heads too big, little things like that that stand out. By no means, again, I know it sounds like I'm trashing the man, but no, he's great. He's a great writer, got a great mind. The concepts he comes up with are fantastic. But he draws iconic images like this. This has always been one of my favorite covers. It's an upgrade. I'm not even going to open it up. I still have my beat up copy that I've had since I was a kid, probably coming up on 40 years. And this is getting framed and put on the wall. If I knew a website that I could send this image to and they would send me a poster, I guarantee there would be a place for this in the house, but I just love this. It's Warlock 67, but it's just one of those striking covers that grabbed me when I was a kid. Definitely look it up online. Look at the detail in there, the cross hatching, not a lot of cross hatching, but the pen work on this is fantastic, textured. I just love this piece. Love this one. Paulo Costo, there's a few Tarzan collection with Malibu and Dark Horse stories. I was also a fan of the Bern Horgath new strip and stuff. I think I might have some of those new strips in trade, or at least I had them, or maybe I got them from a library. I don't know, but I definitely, I heard some great things about the Tarzan Dark Horse. I have a few books. I have a Tarzan one shot that takes place way in the future. And what I loved is that they wrote it in a way where it felt like a continuation of the pulp novels. It was fantastic. I'll never find it. so I got these. I grabbed these. Okay. One of the reasons I got these are because of the condition. And somebody wrote down 6.3 on this. That's probably when they got it on the newsstand back in the day. Who knows? But anyway, this is Beowulf, Dragon Slayer. Now there was Beowulf and oh man, what was the rest of them? I might have them in here, but there was a couple of fantasy books that came out in the early 70s with some early Howard Chaykin art on it and stuff. Seems like they had Fafnir and the Grey Mouser and a few other ones. I mean, people are going to know what I'm talking about, and they were just great books. But I picked these up because these are in the best shape I've ever seen. There was, before the DC implosion and whatever else was going on back then, they had some really cool books that aren't going to set your mind on fire when you read them stuff, but like Kong the Untamed. There's a lot of great books that came out around this era in the 70s for the DC implosion that are forgotten and overlooked, and there's only a few issues of all of them. But this is number 3. I'm telling you, man, it's what a lot of people say the Bronze Age started and the Silver Age died when Gwen Stacy was killed in the Spider-Man books, right? But to me, I feel like the Bronze Age actually started when you had Conan, the Barbarian #1 at Marvel. What was that, like 1970? To me, that's when I feel like the Bronze Age actually should have started, because, we started getting all these great fantasy books that came out there. And that was followed up with Dungeons and Dragons, which connects me into the 80s and stuff, right? All this stuff. Lord of the Rings had been hot since the 50s. And you had Led Zeppelin singing songs about Mordor and all kinds of stuff here, man. But these are just fun. Get in there and see who's in there. But these are just great fun books that are probably more eye candy. I'm expecting them to be eye candy more than anything else. Yeah, Beowulf the Dragon Slayer. So I got a little bit of 70s fantasy there from early DC. It'll be interesting to see who's working on there. Okay, now this is a book that was in the house. I'm going back. I owned the movie that Disney put out years ago, and it has a lot of fans, and the movie just didn't grab me, but I own it, and I'm going to go back and look at it. But these books, I remember enjoying them, and there's been a bit of a buzz on these books. Doesn't mean they're going to be worth anything, but I've heard people talk more and more about them. I've got 2 or 3 issues floating around. There was a ton of, I remember an annual floating around the house all the time. I remember just more or less looking at the art in these more than reading them when I was a kid. But here's number 6. The John Carter Warlord of Mars. Wasn't he like a Civil War dude that got transported to Mars and had some great adventures up there? A man out of his planet. Kind of like the same origin almost as Din, from Heavy Metal. But yeah, I was glad to find these. I looked back and forth at them. Here's number 5. Looked back and forth at them. Some of these have some great Gil Kane covers, which I think Gil Kane was just the man when it came to covers. Then I got these. I was really glad to get these. Here's a great John Romita cover. I hope they're showing up. But Amazing Adventures, and I'm wanting the P. Craig Russell issues that come on here. But this is Killraven, Warrior of Mars. This is a continuation of H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds, where we got attacked by Mars. And it'll be interesting to get in there. I mean, I know Killraven. I have a one shot here and there. He's always kind of been around. But yeah, these should be fun. I think these guys popped up in Paradise X too. I think Alex Ross and Kruger brought him in there for a while. And then I have a Joseph Michael Lunsner, the guy that does Dawn. I have a one shot that he did. He's got a thing about ginger characters. So yeah, I was able to grab these and finally look at them. I kind of remember these being around the house, but they never really grabbed me. Herb Trimpe cover. Herb Trimpe, The Coming of the Warlord, based on concepts of H.G. Wells. And this is where I got excited because this is a great P. Craig Russell work piece in the 70s. So, An Amazing Adventures. I'm really hoping that, I get more and more of a P. Craig Russell. The older I get, the more of a fan of his work I am. It's really odd. Oh, look at that. Like I said, some of these are out of order. John Carter, Warlord of Mars, number 4. Gil Kane cover. The Raiding Party. This should be some good stuff. Where are we at here? I saw a few Tarzan collection with Malibu and Dark Horse. Yeah, I already read that. I was reading a John Sable freelance arc this morning. Beautiful work, great writing. I've heard what I'm hearing a lot about is Grimjack right now too. I'm hearing a lot about Grimjack. Grimjack seems a lot of these. I don't know if a lot of these independent '80s books and stuff that are attached to like Tim Truman and Mike Grell, and I know I'm leaving out another name. Seem to really be getting a lot of interest all over again. I don't know what's really going on. We got some John Carter lovers out there. Paulo Costa, I have the Lunsner one shot too. Not a typical Killraven story, but it was a good read. Yeah, I mean he made it his own. I felt like. Paulo Costa, I never read Lunsner before. His Dawn is very, I'm trying to think what the word is. I almost want to say immaculate. Very, some very big concepts in there. It's almost like he could have been a Neil Gaiman in a way. Where are we at here? Eric Breen, getting comic books on a honeymoon. That's not the best of both worlds. I don't know what is. Hey, right off the bat, yeah, I had the best of both worlds. I can go on and on. How much were those? Every book I'm showing you, after I did the math for everything I bought, 65 cents a piece is what ended up doing after I did the division. Some I paid $1 for, some I got less, but I did the math in total. With the total that I paid for everything, 65 cents an issue, except for the Marvel Treasury edition. And if you back up, Scott, you'll see I got 2-3 keys. Gore Vidal, I'm looking forward to the Barry Windsor Smith unpublished Hulk story he did in the mid 80s. I am too. In the kayfabe interview, Nacita talked to why Marvel didn't publish at the time. January 2021. Awesome. I'm also looking forward to, and I think it's coming out next month, of the Maestro, the Hulk Maestro origin story. I don't expect it to be as eloquent as the Barry Windsor Smith story, but still, that's a lot of fun where they're going back and bringing things up. They're never in the dollar bin here, and I can't even find John Carter books around here that often. Well, I travel. I used to travel and stuff until this COVID-19 stuff. Okay. Tom Bagley, I love the 70s. And Scott, that's how if you go way back on my channel, that's totally how I made my channel. My channel was bigger in the mid-teens, if you will, and stuff. But I totally did flea market hauls, told you other places to think out of the box and stuff to work how to go find books and stuff. And I was always doing these hauls. And, I'm the guy that would find a 50-cent book and it'd be worth $80 or something. I loved how 70s Marvel and DC tried out a lot of pulp novel heroes. Yeah, it was a fun time. Tom Bagley's asking how the Alan Davis Killraven was. I haven't read it, which is really funny because it's actually one of the few Alan Davis works that I haven't read. That and his what was it, Clandestine? I haven't read those, but if it's in the quality of the Nail, Superboy's Legion, Fantastic Four, The End, any other books he's done, I would say it's a safe bet that it's going to be pretty good. Hey, Victor Thomas is here. Good morning. Tom Bagley, I'm interested in the monster story coming out, but it's hard to imagine it drawn by anyone other than George Perez. Well, they have some variant covers he's doing. I'm with you. It's going to be very odd to see that book without George Perez, but at least they have some covers that you can get where George Perez is included in it. That takes away a little bit of the sting for me, you know. Okay, so what we have here is some more modern comics, more modern. And the fact that these were so cheap, I don't know if that's a reflection of the one of the people that I bought this off of are trying to build. They're claiming they have something like 350 long boxes, I think they said. And then they also said they had like thousands and thousands of Hot Wheels and thousands of sports cards, and that they're hoping that they're going to get this property that was a Kmart in Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, and they're going to try to open the world's largest collectible store there. I wished him good luck, and he cut me a very nice deal because he knew I'd gotten married. We'd been talking as I was going through his boxes. But I got some Black Hammer stuff. Jeff Lemire. Not sure. It's kind of like I really don't have an opinion on his writing, if you will, because it seems like everything that I've read of his has been an homage to something else, and that's not bad. That's not bad. But he, I know people who are big fans of his work, but he actually turned me off with his social media there a year or two ago. But I've heard great things about Black Hammer. Black Hammer being nostalgic, old, like Justice League, old comics is what I've heard and stuff, right? I read his Dr. Star, which was an homage to James Robinson's Starman, where they even drew the main character look like James Robinson. So, why not? And I found these cheap here, but this is some kind of Black Hammer 3 for $1. So I think it's a bunch of short stories in it. The World Black Hammer Encyclopedia. So hopefully that will catch me up with what's going on here. Now, I bought number 1 of this online, and it's in my last haul that came in. I really have no idea if I bought any more, and I don't think I did. So it was really interesting that I got to complete, as far as I know, this miniseries where we had Black Hammer crossover with the Justice League, Hammer of Justice. So there's number 2. I know people that really like this. Number 3. I'm sure they had multiple covers, and also I don't know. Number 4, I kind of dig this cover. It's got a very omnibus Halloween feel. I love that color palette. And it's when I'm looking at this, I know this is Superman's S, but it almost looks like a jack-o'-lantern from a distance. Very cool. So I can say stuff about that. And I feel like some of this art looks very much like Guy Davis. I don't know if that's what they're shooting for. I don't know much about this artist. Newer books. When we start talking about comics from the last 5 years, that's where you're going to beat me at trivia. Anything going backwards, I can hang in there. What do we got here? Gore Vidal. Grimjack is on the spectacular radar. Even ever since a TV series was announced, suddenly there's Truman fans everywhere. It'd be nice if they actually read the books. Yeah, and that's where I try, and that's where I kind of come off with the exact same idea. I've always liked Truman. I've met Truman. I've read Truman books. I love his Jonah Hex. I can name the books. I have Scout. I've known about this guy since the late 80s and stuff, right? And I never considered myself like a Tim Truman nut. And then I met him at Heroes Con, found out he's lived up the road from me a couple of hours, all this time. Got to know him a little bit, as much as you can, meeting him at cons and stuff. And then I have a buddy. This is what gets me. I have a buddy I talk about all the time, Tim Anderson. That's a Tim Truman fan. I heard something about the Grimjack, maybe a TV show and stuff. Tim Truman's doing some crowdfunding books right now, bringing back Scout, I think. So you're absolutely right. People hear TV series and all of a sudden they're fans. It blows my mind when I know real fans, you know. Paulo Costa, this is why everything should be available in trade paperback. The civilians could play Monopoly with those original comics, and we'd always have access to the stories at a low price point. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about getting some of those older books out in trade for various reasons, and Paulo, that being a big one right there. Tom Bagley, even though I've never read Black Hammer, I'll bet those characters will feel more familiar than JLA. Yeah, that's kind of the feel that I've been hearing from him and stuff, right? Well, guys, thanks for hanging in there, man. We got another stack to go here in just a minute. Now, this one right here is not going to blow anybody away, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to speak for anybody, but you've never heard of this book probably, or you may have. I don't know. But it's not one of the more popular, sought-out key books for the Justice League that I've heard of. But I've always wanted this book. I've never really found it in the wild. And maybe I have a beat up copy I forgot about. But again, this would be an upgrade, and that's fine. But it's Starro versus Justice League of America in the world of slaves. Now, I almost want to play this game like, why would Hallermouse want this? You know, what's special about this book? Well, basically, it's an early Brian Boland cover, and he's doing Starro. And it's a very cool, creepy looking sci-fi influenced cover. It's just an early Brian Boland that I really like. And it's one of those covers that the more you look at it, the more you dig it, the more you get into it. Yeah, there it is, Boland. Early Boland cover. And, you know, what year is this? It's issue 190, so we're probably talking like 1980, I had to guess. We're going to crack this open because I'm getting interested. Easy. Yeah, but I'd say this is an early 1980. Yeah, 81, excuse me. May of 81. So this is March of 1981. So just a cool cover. And if you're curious on the insides, it's Gary Conway and Rich Buckler. And the art is not bad inside either. I like Rich Buckler is not bad. Anyway, we'll just put that to the side. But I've always liked that because it's a bone cover. Now, I have the original of this, but this is a reprint in Marvel Tales. It also has a Peter Porker story. Not only is this a John Byrne story where Spider-Man meets Red Sonja, but if I remember right, basically what happens is Red Sonja ends up possessing or coming through Mary Jane, the redheaded wife of his. But the other great thing about this is that there is a Clark Kent and a Lois Lane in the Marvel Universe. And every now and then they would pop up. And of course, they wouldn't be named, but they would always be there. And this is one of the appearances of a Clark Kent and Lois Lane that exist in the Marvel Universe. And I always got a kick out of that as a kid. We'll go ahead and just see if maybe I can find the page real quick. Maybe not. Let's put it to the side. If we got time at the end of the haul, I may pop that out. But I've always been, I've always meant to. It's like I'll see the book and say I'm going to do this and do that, and I kind of forget about it. But I've always wanted to see if anybody has collected a list of where the Marvel version of Clark Kent and Lois Lane pop up. Okay, Boy Commandos. I had to get this. This is a Carmine Infantino cover, I believe, doing his best Nick Hardy and Kirby. I'm guessing here, but this is a Simon and Kirby, Joe Simon, Jack Kirby special of the Boy Commandos. Never even heard of this book. It's a number 2, and I'm sure it's reprints. But I used to read these reprints in the back of the New Gods books, the Fourth World books, Forever People and stuff. So I think these were probably kids that were based off of kids that Jack Kirby grew up with. And there was always this thing here where the kid in the Derby, I can't remember one blank on my Kirby characters this morning, but hey, what are we going to do? My coffee is way over there in another room. Yeah. Anyway, the kid in the Derby, who I think his name was Derby, they're saying that he grew up to be a police captain, one of the police in the New Gods, the one that took on Caliban in the New Gods series, where he stood up to him. Oh my God, his name is right on the tip of my tongue. Somebody's going to throw it out there. The Terrible Turpin. Yeah, the Terrible Turpin, I think. Okay, Gorvidal. I didn't like Lemire's youthful take on Green Arrow when I first saw the comic. I thought it was about Speedy. Mind the comics. Lemire's Gideon Falls is one of the best stories I've read recently. Although I find Sorrentino's art awful. Okay, okay. Tom Bagley. I just read that the Bowling cover is the first appearance of the Facehugger Starros, and it was by mistake. Oh, thank you, Tom Bagley. Tom Bagley will come up with some like him, Pasto. That's why I love these you guys, man. I love you guys. You pop up with some great, little trivia and stuff that I never heard of. But it seems like in the back of my mind, maybe I heard about the first Facehugger, but I did not know it was the mistake. Just full out there. But that is awesome. Oh, fantastic. Got a little something to dig on now. Scott Connor's here. What's up, man? Back up, catch 3 wind. I've shown some keys and stuff, right? But anyway, Kirby, Joe Simon, 40s. And I've always, like I said, the boy Commandos, Newsboy Legion. In my mind, I always thought those may have been kids that Kirby grew up with that he was basing them on. I fell down when I saw this one. Number 15 towards the end of the series, but this is a beautiful, beautiful copy that just has 3 or 4 little spine ticks here. 2 of them break the color pretty good, and that's it. Flat edges, a little bit of wear on this corner and stuff, but a Jack Kirby from the 70s, number 15. My guess is this may be a $35 book. I don't know. I really don't, catch up with that. But I've always wondered what was supposed to be in that bubble. It's, the Imposter. And I have another book where I have on the cover, if it's in the stack, where Darkseid is fighting another Darkseid. But we have the demon fighting another demon. This posture will never defeat me. And I've always wondered what Clarion was trying to say there. And you will exist in his place. I don't know. I feel like there's a thing there. But the demon amazes me because I finally got to read a few issues of the original over the last couple of years. I think it's a fantastic book. And this is one of the books Kirby didn't even want to do, which blows my mind. No, your eyes are not deceiving you. I have no shame. But I grew up on the Muppets, the Muppet Babies cartoon. I caught 3 or 4 of them when I was a kid. It seems like something else was on when they were on. If the other cartoon was a rerun, I would jump over there and watch this. The Muppet Babies came out of Muppets Take Manhattan, which was, they were just a phenom of their own there for a little bit. And of course, we got the comic book that came out. And believe it or not, there is a demand for the Star Comics going on. I don't know who these people are, but they're out there, and they're out there wanting their Star Comics. So we'll just let that fall over there. And then we have some really cool stuff here. This is me replacing it. Back in 2010, I was moving out of Roanoke, and I had Roanoke is a city, and I lived in Benton. And I ended up moving by myself, and I was packing by myself. So I had a U-Haul out in front of my apartment building, and I had 2 boxes of comics stolen from me. And one of the boxes was my Jack Kirby Fantastic Four odds and ends and my Incredible Hulk books. So kind of replacing some books I had, and I was really glad to get this. But I'll go ahead and flat out tell you, it was really cool what Peter David was doing on the Incredible Hulk. It's really odd because his run it was more lighthearted, more comic booky and stuff, but it's almost like I think everybody should get the Peter David run as much as they should get the Alan Moore Swamp Thing run, but for different reasons. It's just a solid book, heavy on character development, goes back and forth. He had a plan, and then you had Dale Keown come on the book. When Dale Keown come on the book, I'm not shy about saying it was like he was a John Byrne. It felt like, he was really channeling John Byrne, if you will. And then you got to watch him do his own style came on. He started getting heavier on the blacks. He just started blossoming into more of his own artist, in my opinion. The influences were still there. Now, 370 and 371 were a fantastic little short story. He got into dark matter and all this stuff, but he acknowledged the Defenders and the whole idea that if the Defenders ever got back together completely, it'd be like this catastrophic event and stuff, right? So you had some really good stuff, and it was around this time that I'm saying, like I said, that Del Keown really was starting to come into his own. Now, this was an interesting book because I'm going by memory here. Like I said, I had all of these off the newsstand and stuff, right? But Incredible Hulk versus Freedom Force, and Freedom Force was huge. It was the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. They worked for the government, and for some reason they got pulled into a story here from the X-Men books, and they brought in some characters that were inserted by Chris Claremont. They had Storm, and you had 3 of these old World War II government heroes, agents you never heard of with powers, and they were pretty much hunting down. They were doing a take on the old movie, The Greatest Game or whatever it was. But anyway, they were hunting Storm down. Storm had to hand them their butts and stuff. This is when Storm still didn't have her powers and stuff, and they ended up being part of Freedom Force. It was a great time to be collecting. What we got here? Hi, Scott. Now the both of us can make Tim feel guilty for having a sub for him yesterday. I want to watch that show. It actually popped up this morning when I was getting ready to do this, man. I'm sure you guys did a great job. I laughed at what he's talking about is on Jared Osborne's channel. They did a Cavern of Chaos show, and the thumbnail was "Where's Tim?" And it was Tim the Sorcerer from Monty Python, the Holy Grail. That's all I needed to see. Paulo Costo, in my mind, Clarion the Witch Boy grows up to become Richmond from the IT crowd. Tom Bagley, no shame in the game either. I'm still finishing up the Count Duckula run. Count Duckula was I loved my Danger Mouse. I still have them on VHS. I have them on my, I watch them on, I don't know if it's Netflix or something, but they were awesome. Nickelodeon in the 80s. I miss it as much as MTV of the 80s. Sometimes here in the South, it's hard to tell U-Haul from you-all. That's hilarious. Anyway, and I'm filling in some of this Jeff Loeb, Ed McGuinness books of the Hulk. I was really down on this series when it came out because they had this fantastic, and I think it's like Blackest Night with DC. World War Hulk was probably like the last great thing, in my opinion. My opinion, that Marvel really did. That was just like this great story, and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, when it was over with, you get a new #1 of the Hulk, and he wakes up in a desert, and it's like it never happened. Nobody talks about the Hulk, setting up his throne room in Madison Square Garden and raising hell and riding down from Planet Hulk. Planet Hulk and World War Hulk were fantastic, and they just kind of act like it never happened. It blows my mind. But I'm great Art Adams cover here. There's some reprints in this. Jeff Loeb, Arthur Adams, Frank Choi, Herb Trimpe. I think they reprint Hulk 181 in this with some other stories and stuff. But Art Adams doing an actual issue of a book. Yeah, I'm going to grab that. And then never read this one. This is one of the books that eluded me back in the day because Hulk was starting to get hot with Peter David. It was hot when Todd McFarlane was on there with Peter David, but word of mouth started spreading, at least where I lived. Now, this is before internet and stuff. I always have to say that. This is in my area growing up in school. But the Incredible Hulk books, word of mouth, were really making this book hot. And then when Del Keown came on, it exploded. But this is one of the books that eluded me, the horror books. Okay, guys. We're almost done. Now, the Sin City books, I've got them in trade. I've got a couple of complete series, and I'm happy to say that I actually was there from day one on Sin City, as I could get to the comic book shops and stuff, Dark Horse Presents and stuff, right? But it turns out I have the very first collected edition of the Sin City, a white hardback that became to be known the Hard Goodbye, that I didn't realize how supposedly rare it was, right? That's kind of cool about cataloging my comics and finding out I have some stuff better than I thought. But the comic book shop was going out of business. It was called Moonlight Comics in Claypool Hill, Virginia. I think I got the thing for like 60% off or something. I'll show it one day. But anyway, I'm always surprised when I find Sin City books cheap. I totally get it. It's Frank Miller. A lot of people are turned off by Frank Miller, all this stuff, right? But Sin City, number 9. This is probably I think I need one issue. I think I need number 8 of this series. But I got this one because to replace the one I have, because I got it at a flea market. It has a real bad mildewy smell. But Hell and Back, a Sin City love story, really is a twist on some of the Sin City stories where it's noir and grim and gritty and stuff. This time you get to see it through the eyes of an artist with a big trip. He goes on a big, there's a big trip there where he hallucinates. But anyway, that's kind of a different kind of story. But these are the ones I was really surprised to find, because this was in the midst of Sin City being hot. Dame to Kill For. I mean, we're going back to the 90s, number 6. I think these actually came out of a dollar bin. This is the cover that you cannot find back in the day. I don't know if it's where, we have, we're in Old Town with the hookers. But yeah, this is when the book was really popping back in the day. And I think that's probably the only series I need to finish up. I think I have almost all of them, except for that. And now we go back. As much as I love my Jonny Quest on Saturday mornings in 1977, 78, a little bit of 79, you got up early in the morning for the syndicated stuff before the the 3 networks had their cartoons come on. And you got Battle of the Planets and Jonny Quest. And I need to get number 1. I was collecting these when they came out, but I don't remember what was going on. I ended up selling quite a few, got rid of them. Probably was just trying to make room or something, right? But I never knew this came out. This is Battle of the Planets battle book. Now, this is written really, really bad, but it's written like it's a dossier on each character. And they're trying to act like whoever's writing is trying to say that they've had psychologists look at them and stuff. But this is a good way. This is a good reference material to get to know each member of the Battle of the Planets and stuff. But like I said, maybe it's my line of work, or I'm a social worker and actually read psychological evaluations and set them up and stuff like that. And I do a little bit of informal counseling. So when I was reading how somebody was typing up their psychological assessments or something of these characters, it was so bad. I was like, maybe you'll like it. But this is just a really cool reference to get to know the characters and stuff. Here's number 1. Alex Ross and I must be around the same age or close to the same age. I think he's 3 years older than me. And Alex Ross does live in a time bubble. It's the 70s. It's always the 70s. So it was this was a labor of love for him to come in here and plot this. He and I both loved the Flash Gordon movie from 1980 and the same cartoons, the same versions of the Legion, same era. But it just kind of, he nailed some of these covers. If you were a fan of the Americanized Battle of the Planets and stuff, he just nailed some of the moments and the characters in here. I just need number 1 again. I had number 1 back in the day when this came out. I had the first 6. So there's number 12. And these iconic images are just so cool if you were into the cartoon back in the day. Now, I have some of the unedited Gatchaman, Science Ninja Gatchaman. Science Police Ninja Gatchaman, whatever it's called. I have one set of the unedited ones that are just fantastic. They took out the robot. But Jason was my favorite. He was my favorite. A little bit damaged. Tries to be a tough guy in person, and then, he's really secretly got a heart of gold in the background. And Legion of Superheroes, the Legion. I've been cataloging my comic books. I thought I did all my Legion books, and I only needed a few of this one. This book only ran about 3 years, probably 35, 36 issues. And I think I need most of the ones in the 30s. Most of the issues in the 30s are not written by Abnett and Lanning, the DNA team, if you will. This series spawned out of their Legion Lost books when they took over the stories and stuff. They came in, but they had Tony Harris doing some great covers. And this is where you have Darkseid versus Darkseid. The thing that fascinates me about Legion of Superheroes is that they always try to go back to the Great Darkness saga, where Darkseid was revealed to be the villain by Giffen and Levetts and stuff, right? So these are actually, this may be all the issues that I want to get of this series. I think Gail Simone came in and did some of the last issues. Not really interested in her work anymore. Now, this one I had to get. and I cracked up one of my friends talking about it because they said great covers. But this is Legends of the DC Universe. It's actually a really fun series. They do these little arcs of stories with just some characters wherever, you know. They have an Atom, they had a Batman, they had a Wonder Woman story, Green Arrow story, whatever. And this is a going back to a little bit of the Jack Kirby Fourth World Jimmy Olsen stories is what it feels like, bringing some of those characters. But they have fantastic Steve Rude covers. It's a 2-part story. But you get inside, it's Ladron doing it in Jack Kirby's story. Ladron was an artist that I was fascinated with because he drew the characters like Kirby, but he did the backgrounds like anime and manga and stuff, right? Really cool stuff. He did some stuff in Amalgamation Comics when DC and Marvel did some of their crossovers. That's where I discovered him. He did some Cable books with Jeff Loeb. But I cracked up one of my friends because he said great covers. I was like, Steve Root on the street, Ladron in the sheets. And he kind of laughed at that. It was funny. And then the last thing we have here, I still feel like I've skipped the... Oh, I did. Let's go ahead and do these. And then I'll show the trades off. All right, but what's wild is as I'm going through my comic books, cataloging them again, because the website I was using that I used for 7 years had gotten bought out, and they had a chance to where you could download your comic book collection on a PDF. So I've started all over, and I've got books that are missing that are odd. I don't know if I've double bagged them and I need to go back and see if they're in the back of a comic. But I have except for issue 2, I have a whole complete series of the New Teen Titans, the first series with Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Number 36 was missing. And I don't know why. I've read it. It's been in there. I had it forever. So that's just a replacement. This was another one that was missing. I'm also missing All-Star Squadron number 4, which with the Stargirl TV series going on, that may not be a good thing because it's got the first appearance of a villain that's on there, the dragon character. What was his name? Lord Dragon. I don't know. Anyway, but this is another book that I had 2 copies of, and they're both missing. So I don't know what the deal is. This is the Baxter series, the New Titans. Around issue 50, they dropped the teen, Birth of a Titan. And this would have been an upgrade anyway, so it's not a big deal. A series that I'm piecing together, but my heart is not really, it's not burning to really get this, but I'm a huge fan of the Crime Syndicate, going way back to Justice League 207 when I was 9 years old. And somewhere on the line when I was cataloging my comics, I've got quite a few of this Trinity series. This is Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley. Mark Bagley of Ultimate Spider-Man fame, New Warriors, Night Mask. Back, going on back. But this is when he came to DC, worked a little bit on Justice League, and then he had a weekly series. That DC 52 series really pumped them up to try to get as many of those out as they could. It was really cool. But I'm not going to spread, I might be able to spread them out, but all these covers connect. Every cover of this series connects. That came out weekly back in the day. So I got 13, 14. Okay. Fighting Owlman, Ultraman fighting Wonder Woman, but it's called Trinity number 8. So I'm missing one issue to have the first 25. Then I got sporadic copies of this. I think there's 52 of them or 50 of them. I don't know. I don't even know how I really got them. I think I just picked them up and really set out to do it. This was a book. I absolutely loved this story when I was a kid back in the day. And I ended up selling runs of Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, probably from the late 80s there, around this era, to my brother, because I was making room and stuff, right? But I always loved Iron Man number 225. I've always just loved this character. I love the Silver Centurion, red and silver Iron Man armor. I mean, to me, if I want to feel nostalgic, I get Iron Man number 200 in this cover. And that's just an era that is just solid 80s. I'm not saying the stories are great. I'm just saying that it gives me that nostalgic feeling. Those Bob Layton covers, Obadiah Stane. And this is where Iron Man finds out that a lot of his technology has been stolen, and he goes after all these villains and stuff that have stolen his technology, taking them out one by one. And here's the big thing that I'm trying to complete. I've loved the Max from day one. I followed Sam Keith from the first couple issues of Manhunter back in the 80s where he was inking it. To where, I was getting that book because it was a DC book at #1. Then all of a sudden you start hearing about the Sandman, and I found out he was doing the Sandman. Then the big news came out that he left the Sandman books because he and Neil Gaiman didn't agree on what death should be. He had made her a Mary Poppins. Neil Gaiman made her a Mary Poppins warm character, and his idea is death is supposed to be horrific and stuff. So he takes off, and pretty much what I understand is one of the reasons he brought back this character, started working at Image, is that he was doing some Marvel Comics Present story with Wolverine, and that was a weekly series back then. Someone at Image caught an eye and offered to say, come over here and do a book. So he kind of did it. He and Messner Loebs, who had worked together before on Ipecaris, they had these a book that I showed a couple months ago that I got a big kick out of, a bunch of philosophers and bringing in Greek myths and all this stuff. It was a funny book. They came together and they ended up doing the Max, and the Max popped when it had the cartoon on MTV. So anyway, I'm trying to finish this, the Max, number 15, number 19, and right there I have the first 20 issues complete. That's the story of the Max. Then another Max pops up. I'm not going to get into it and stuff. That'll be a whole different video. But there's a lot of Arthur Pseudonym in here, a lot of Frank Frazetta and Sam Keith's own stuff, if you will. A little bit of Von Bode, guys we've been talking about on Chaos. 14 and number 11. But I love Sam Keith's art. I absolutely love what he does and everything. And it's blowing my mind how long he's been around. I just hope he finishes up the Max. I think there's a bit of a buzz back on the Max again, maybe because of the nostalgia. It seems like there's a lot of stuff from the 90s getting brought back, and because of I lost my train of thought there, man. Anyway, anyway, I've been hearing a little bit of buzz about the Max, and I'll show the trades here, and I'll read some comments, and we'll blow this up. All right. Now, I don't know if you guys were into Opus back in the day, but I'm into Charlie Brown, Far Side, Hagar the Horrible, and I really got into Bloom County back in the day. But this is a trade of a collection of some of their cartoons from the 80s and stuff, right? And I have two of these, and they're kind of beat up, but I got this one because I finally found one with an insert in the back. I also had the punk record they made for Opus when he had a punk band with Bill the Cat and stuff, right? So I have to be more careful when I try to complete this stuff because apparently there's a lot of inserts and stuff I may have been missing. Now I heard this. Now these are from Ollie's. I paid what? $3, $4, and $5. So I got a hardback with Brian Hitch art for $5. This is his Justice League of America story. Brian Hitch apparently came in and did this. And I'm not gonna lie, I've heard this is absolutely horrible, but it's a $5 hardback with Brian Hitch art. So even if the story is as horrendous as I've heard, I can still enjoy some Brian Hitch art. Brian Hitch fascinates me because I have like an action annual or something there. During Armageddon 2001, I remember getting an annual, and it was a Superman annual, and it had Maxima on the cover. Action annual, Superman annual, whatever it was. And I started noticing Brian Hitch getting a little bit more work here and there because he looked like Alan Davis. And for him to get this more realistic style and to watch him evolve as an artist over the years, I've always been fascinated with how far he's come. When he started doing the Ultimates and stuff, I knew that book was going to be late, but I didn't realize it was going to be consistently late. This was fun to get because maybe I already bought this and I just forgot in my travels, but I had this thing in me where I'm like, I should have bought this when I had the chance. Now this is a little bit yellowed. It's been on the paper. It'd been on the stands for a while. This thing has been passed around before it got to Ollie's, but this is Tales of the New Gods. And when Walt Simonson was writing Orion, and when John Byrne was doing Jack Kirby's Fourth World book, they're not really. Walt Simonson's Orion book is talked about quite a bit. It was fantastic. but it had little short stories in the back of it that were written by he or John Byrne or something, and they had Frank Miller come in, Howard Chaykin, Jim Lee, some big names. Art Adams came in. They had these little short stories of the Tales of New Gods, and this collects them. This also collects the Steve Rude one shot that came out in the 80s that I have, which was fantastic. So this is pretty much so I don't have to dig those books out again and get them. It also has like an origin of a dark side in it John Byrne was doing. Um, you know, Walt Simonson art and work, Walt Simonson writing, Frank Miller coming in. They just pulled from all over the place. I'm trying to find the Frank Miller stuff. Yeah, Rob Liefeld's in here as well. That kind of cracks me up. Rob Liefeld doing the Forever People or anything New Gods cracks me up because I always felt that Rob Liefeld, especially when he was on X Force and his New Mutants, was just pulling from Jack Kirby's Fourth World stuff, And then I got this for convenience. I have the comics. I have the omnibus, complete set of the omnibus of this finally stuff. But this is the last trade of Starman, revealing the mystery of Starman 1951, Jack Knight getting his baby back, all kinds of stuff going on. But what's really wild is that it references the JSA. And this is actually where he meets the Starman of the future. It all comes together from the Legion of Superheroes. It's a closure, but this actually is where he gives. I'm waiting for this to really take off because this is where Starman, Jack Knight, gives Courtney, who was the Star Spangled Kid at the time, the cosmic rod. So I'm expecting this to, refer back to the Starman books, and this become a key book because right now, Stars and Stripes #0 is hot because of the TV show. For some reason, JSA All Stars #4 is hot because that's where she refers to herself as Stargirl for the first time. But this is where Jack Knight shows up and hands her the cosmic rod. That might have been in the last issue. So this is just out of convenience, so I don't have to dig out those other books and boxes. All right, so let's look at some comments, and then we may have to call it a day. I got things to do. Woo, look at that. We have some great comments here, you guys. Man, fantastic. Okay, we're going to do some comments here. Let me turn this around here. Y'all can see my mug. Yeah, Brooklyn. His name was Brooklyn, going all the way back to me talking about that's where I'm going to stop right there. There's a ton of comments I missed. Brooklyn, his name, the kid in the Derby was the boy Commandos was Derby. He became Dan. He supposedly became Dan the Terrible Turpin. Now that was always a rumor. I wonder if they ever actually said it. I never read Byrne's Namor run. I like his artwork, of course, but are the stories good? I enjoyed the Namor run because he ended up referencing the invaders. He really played around with the history of Namor there for a little bit, little takes and stuff. It's the kind of book, if you're a Namor fan, read the book. I kind of thought he started losing interest a little bit there towards the end, but he even ended up bringing in the Super Scroll, Iron Fist, even had them in, was it the Savage Land maybe and stuff, but it was I liked the series. And he played around a lot with zip tone in his art. John Byrne just took that book and made it his baby. He was doing the story, the zip tone, the art, the lettering. I'm sure he was using computers. Scott Connor, nowhere near as good as the She-Hulk run. I'll agree with that, but I recommend his She-Hulk run. I got a kick out of that. I have a video. It was the video. John Byrne's She-Hulk was the video that popped this channel. That apparently is where I figured out what I was doing, and a lot of people ended up subbing to my channel when I made that video. It's very old. Battle of the Planets. Albert Bailey, have you been reading Nightwing recently? No, not since I heard about the Dick Grayson, Rick Grayson fiasco and that they were doing. Like, I'm like, that's not important. Yeah, where he got shot in the head and had a different person. No, in the 90s, I had enough of the Spider-Man Ben Reilly, so I don't need Nightwing having a second persona. If you like it, you like it. That's cool, but they're wanting to change his name from Dick because it says more about people who giggle at that than it does about it being his name. I know people in the real world that go by the name Dick. Yeah, they shot Dick Grayson in the head to give him a second personality who goes by Richard or something. Whatever, something like that. Something like that. Wasn't Alex Ross the linchpin for Top Pow to get the Battle of the Planets license? That's how I remember it. I can pull out the Wizard. If I can find it where it talks about all about Alex Ross being the man to get that book going in America. There was an earlier series, Battle of the Planets, that was done by Gold Key, and it was truly awful. I have 3 of the issues. I have 1 and 2. Those were like back in like 1980, 81, something like that, maybe late 70s. I don't know. They scraped the DNA Legion continuity too soon. The Wade 3 boot Legion is a travesty. That was horrible. The Mark Wade reboot was so bad they brought in Jim Shooter, who just slowly started morphing that run into the regular Legion. Trying to get rid of the costumes and stuff. Oh my God. I hate Mark Wade. He came out with his Superman Birthright series. Then a few later, he did the Legion 3 boot. And I'm like, the guy's losing it. I really started staying away from his work after that. Did you get the recent Marvel Comics Presents with Wolverine? It was a big because of Wolverine's daughter, supposed to be a hot book, but it cooled down quickly. I just really feel bad for anybody trying to get hot books from Marvel right now. Like I said, I'm really down on a lot of current comics with what they're doing. A lot of people loving that John Byrne She-Hulk book that they're talking about. Yeah, I missed the comic book database site. Yeah, that's what I was using. Actually, the whole video on how to use it. I was so happy with it. A lot of people were recommending some stuff. Mark Bright draws a great mullet to Tony Stark. Tom Bagley. It sounds like a man who was there. I definitely would have liked Mark Bright to draw my mullet that I had back then. Rob Ripa. All is good. Tom Bagley, issue 5 of Max. Keith slipped in an image of death in there as a poster and a caption saying death is hard, cold, and grim, not some cute chick. Tom Bagley, if you see the Max cartoon and he refers to Sarah and her friend at school talking about the sand people over there, the goth kids, you can see them throwing a ice cream or something on that picture of death. That made it into the cartoon. And it was oh my God, what was his name? Chris Bachalo image of death, of Neil Gaiman's death. I always wanted to see the first Sandman arc if it was drawn by Bernie Wrightston. That would have been killer, especially with him drawing Cain and Abel. Couldn't get into the Batman, the Max Limited series. Neither could I, but I've got 3 of them. I mean, I've already got 2 or 3 of them. Might as well finish it off. I can, I did a comparison of Sam Keith's work back in like the late 80s and early 90s compared to what he's doing now. Basically, the guy doesn't draw backgrounds anymore or something. I don't know. Bloom County was great. I enjoyed Bloom County. I hate that even though I discovered it in the late 80s, I still hate that I got on. I felt like I got on late with that one. I was a Far Side Charlie Brown nut. And I'm sure I'm skipping another one. The New God short stories were wonderful. I've enjoyed them. Other than Kirby's original stuff, what New God stuff through the years would you get, say, got it right? Not a lot, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people are fans of Mark Evanier. What's going on there? Mark Evanier and Paris Cullins's New Gods book that came out in the 80s and stuff, because Mark Evanier was Jack Kirby's assistant for so many years, and he supposedly got the mindset of a lot of stuff that Kirby did. I honestly am trying to think if there's anything that got it right that I can say I enjoyed, and I'm a purist with that stuff. That's my problem. I'm a purist. I think Walt Simonson Orion got it right. I think Jack Kirby had the right spirit for it in the '90s when he was doing the Jack Kirby stuff, the Jack Kirby Fourth World. I don't know. I wanted to think about that, Tom Bailey. I may just spit something out there. Albert Bailey, I just bought the entire series of Stars and Stripe. Not interested in reading. On eBay, they're selling an entire series for crazy money, like $3.55. Let me go back to Alias. That book Alias, that was by Brian Michael Bendis in the early '90s and stuff. And it was I was getting that monthly, and I was reading it, trying to get into Jessica Jones and stuff. I got it because it was usually supposed to be the Jessica Spider Woman. And they wouldn't let him use that character, so he had to change her name up and stuff. But it was supposed to be Spider Woman without her powers, and that's why it's a story. That's why they ended up taking Jessica, making her whatever her superhero name was. I don't know, Diamond, whatever they made her, and they inserted her into like little continuity and stuff with Mark Bagley pages and stuff. Like she'd always been around and she lost her powers. Everybody felt bad for her. And I get why Bendis had to do it when you realize they wouldn't let him use Spider Woman. So I get those books. I'm reading it. This is where I discovered that Bendis is much better at writing cops than superheroes. I don't know what's going on with the camera. Sorry, guys. It's live. I can't do anything to fix it right now. That probably has something to do with the lighting. But anyway, that book, I could not give it away for decades. I put it on eBay 3 different times, the complete entire series. I got down to $5 for the whole series, right? Something like 20 to 25 books, $5. They make the TV show on Netflix. I wait till that weekend. I put it up there. I sell the entire series for something like $175. That's just how these things are. If you're going to make money and be savvy, if that's what you want to do, you got to get up there. I have the Stars and Stripes #0 because it has Starman in it. That's why I bought it. It had a Starman backup story in it. And this is before I knew where Courtney Whitmore came. It was an homage to his sister to make her immortal, more or less, in comics because she died in a plane crash. He touched a lot of. He actually did a whole plane crash story in Justice Society of America with Nucleon and stuff, right? He really did some cathartic stuff in comics about his sister's death, right? But the story series didn't grab me. Nobody knew who Jeff Johns was at the time, and I got that #0. Over the years, I have never heard anybody be a huge Stargirl fan until they got into her having the cosmic rod or getting into Jeff Johns or hearing the backstory. So I'm not into really wanting to hear that there's always been the Courtney Whitmore fans. She was a supporting character in GSA for years. Yeah, Paulo Costo, after my big little rant there, Paulo Costo bottom lines it just because of the TV series. Speculating is out of control. I've heard the roadmap of Starman's Perez more Swamp Thing. Tom, you heard it here. This is why I like YouTube. I have it documented in my videos that I feel like he used Swamp Thing as a blueprint, and that's why Solomon Grundy pops up, and that's why Starman actually ended up on the blue planet with Solomon Grundy on the blue planet from Moore's Run. It's kind of like he got into the legacies. He got the story that explains it to you. He had a story where he dealt with demons instead of going to hell. He had the story where he went into space, much like Swamp Thing did, and he came, I feel like he just sort of hit the beats of Alan Moore's Swamp Things. If you've heard it somewhere else, let me know, but I really feel like I'm the guy that pulled that up, and I feel like I'm coming off like an ass saying that, but Paulo Costo. Oh wait, I lost it. Paulo Costo, and it's the civilians thinking they're paying for their kids' college funds with modern comics. Again, yeah, we've all seen that before. If you've been around collecting comics for any length of time, you catch it or you're seeing it again. Matthew Rasco's out here. Cool. Gretzky's out there. What's up, brother? How's everyone been doing? Matthew Rasco. He's been reading Justice League International and drinking root beer today. That's an awesome way to go. I can't believe it's almost 11:30. I got to go here. Let me see if there's anything. Hitman. I think the Stargirl show is fantastic. I really do. I think the pilot episode, the first 10 minutes, are better than any DC movie in a while. No, I haven't completed my Hellblazer run. Not really been working on it too much. Has there been a Johnny Thunder comic series with Jakeem and the Thunderbolt and Genie? Not that I'm aware of, but there was a very odd Johnny Thunder miniseries back in the 80s where it was a blonde-haired woman who wore a white suit, and she was a detective that played around with some of the Johnny Thunder concepts, but it's so far gone, and I got rid of those books so long ago. I know she popped up somewhere as the Johnny Thunder. That's when they were playing with Earth 1, Earth 2 or something. I don't know. Okay, guys. Oh, Red Vitamin Blue just popping in to say congrats. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it very much. All right, guys. It is 11:30. It has been an hour and a half. I have been gone for a week. Got some things to do because come on, camera. We return to work tomorrow. So I kind of want to have not so much a relaxing day, but a laid back day where I can take my time and do things. Thank you for everybody that's popped in here. Thank you for all the congratulations. Thank you for all the info and the trivia you guys contribute. Thank you for a lot of stuff, man, because, you guys are great and I appreciate it. Okay, guys, keep reading them comics and be excellent to each other. Later.